These are the headlines we're following at this hour. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly arrived in Russia for talks with Putin, accompanying top military officials. The Kremlin officially confirms the summit to be held in the coming days, with eyes on potential arms talks. Following his trips to the ASEAN and G20 summits, President Yoon expresses his eagerness to host a summit with Japan and China to bring the trilateral cooperation back on track, while highlighting South Korea and India's agreement on space cooperation as a key outcome. Over in Morocco, the death toll from the devastating earthquake now tops 2,800. The South Korean government is ready to send assistance once agreement is reached with Morocco. Good afternoon. We start with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's trip to Russia. Kim's train reportedly crossed the border and arrived in Russia on Tuesday morning. Our Choi Min-jung has been following the latest. Min-jung, what do we know so far?
Well, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly arrived in Hassan, Russia, located on the border of the two countries. According to Russian media outlet Vesti Primorye on Tuesday, Kim is now heading to the city of Uzbekistan, located 100 kilometers north of Vladivostok. Citing a Russian government source, Japan's Kyodo News also reported that Kim's train had arrived at Hassan Station this morning. Japan News Network added that he was welcomed with a ceremony. South Korea's defense ministry also said Tuesday that it believes Kim entered Russia early this morning on his private train. The leader is reportedly being accompanied by his foreign minister, Choi Sun-hee, as well as his top military officials. Kim's trip to Russia marks his first foreign trip since the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced North Korea to close its borders for more than 3 years.
Right, we're expecting Kim to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin for bilateral talks. What do we know so far?
Right, the leaders are set to hold a meeting, and just moments ago, the Kremlin announced that Kim and Putin will hold a summit in the Far East within the coming days. The summit is widely anticipated to take place on either September 12th or 13th, possibly in Vladivostok. This is where the two leaders met for the first time more than 4 years ago, and it's also where the Russia-led Eastern Economic Forum, reportedly attended by Putin, is taking place until Wednesday. The Russian leader is also expected to host an official dinner for Kim. Now, talks between the two leaders will likely be focused on bilateral ties as well as an arms deal. Considering that a number of military personnel are on the trip, including the regime's two top military officials, Lee Byung-chul and Park Jong-chun, Seoul's defense ministry said it is closely watching whether the two countries will negotiate arms trade and technology transfer. The U.S. on Monday also threatened to aggressively enforce existing sanctions and add new ones if the regime decides to provide weapons to Russia. This is all I have for now, but I'll be back with updates on our next newscast. Back to you, Jongun.
Thank you, Min-jung, for the reporting. The International Atomic Energy Agency says there are continuing signs of activity at North Korea's Punggye-ri nuclear test site, with construction also being observed at the Yongbyon nuclear facility. According to the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi on Monday, during a board meeting held in Vienna, the Punggye-ri nuclear test site appears to be ready to support nuclear tests. He added that there are signs of activities in Tunnel Number 3 and in areas where support facilities are located. Grossi stressed that conducting a nuclear test will violate UN Security Council resolutions and raise serious concerns. President Yoon expressed his eagerness to host a trilateral summit with Japan and China at the earliest opportunity as he met with representatives from both countries at the G20 summit. Yoon was speaking at a cabinet meeting on Tuesday where he reflected on an eventful week for diplomacy. He also emphasized the need to actively engage in foreign markets to boost the economy, given South Korea's high economic dependence on other countries. He named South Korea's agreement to cooperate in the space industry with India and the signing of 22 MOUs with Indonesia as the key takeaways from his recent ASEAN and G20 trips. On the domestic front, he called the recent suicides of teachers due to work-related pressures a heartbreaking situation. He pledged to do as much as possible to protect teachers' rights. Ahead of the cabinet meeting, the government and the ruling party have decided to change the laws to require the Office of Education to submit its opinion to the investigative body on any child abuse case. This comes as teachers here in the country continue calling for better protection of their rights, with unreasonable claims of child abuse being among their biggest concerns. Our political correspondent Kim Jung-sil reports.
The government and lawmakers are rushing to protect school teachers here in South Korea. On Tuesday morning, the government and the ruling People Power Party met to discuss amending laws to better protect teachers' authority. They discussed ways to counter one of the most serious issues, unreasonable child abuse reports by parents.
We have decided to establish a new regulation requiring the school superintendent to submit a mandatory opinion to the investigative body. And the investigative parties must take the opinion into consideration and put it in the record during the investigation.
With the opinion submitted by the Office of Education that oversees local schools, officials say teachers will have an authoritative body giving more objective opinions regarding the incident.
Over the past decade, teachers have been suffering from the collapsed balance between students' human rights and teachers' rights. Teachers are demanding one thing in particular. They are requesting the law to protect legitimate educational guidance from indiscriminate reports of child abuse.
The movement from the government and lawmakers has been fueled by the recent cases of several school teachers taking their own lives. South Korean media reported many of the teachers suffered from malicious complaints for years in some cases, and that they were under a lot of stress when facing police investigations. Physical punishment has been basically banned in schools in South Korea since 2012, but unreasonable reports of, quote, emotional abuse have put teachers in difficult situations when disciplining students. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
As of Monday, Japan has completed discharging the very first batch of Fukushima wastewater without any accidental release of undiluted wastewater. As Tokyo gears up for the second release within the coming weeks, South Korea plans to send its nuclear experts to the site again. Our Ishi-Hu reports.
The first release of Fukushima wastewater that began on August 24th ended a little after noon on Monday, according to reports by Japanese public broadcaster NHK. South Korea's Office for Government Policy Coordination shared relevant details about this also on Monday during a regular briefing.
When the cleaning of the leftover wastewater inside the transfer facility is completed today, the release of the first discharge will have been completed.
Park added that a total of over 7,700 cubic meters of wastewater was released. There were no manual shutdowns or the operation of emergency valves to prevent the accidental release of undiluted wastewater. The wastewater included tritium, a form of radioactive hydrogen the processing system cannot filter out.
Samples collected from 14 points in waters within 10 kilometers of the nuclear power plant showed that the tritium concentration was much lower than the standard for the suspension of the release.
Back in August, South Korea and the International Atomic Energy Agency agreed to share related information and updates on the discharge. As part of this information sharing framework, Seoul dispatched 3 experts on August 27th from the Korea Institute of Nuclear Safety to Fukushima. For around 2 weeks, they visited the release site and held multiple talks with the IAEA, confirming the agency's own analysis of radionuclide concentrations separate from those of the Tokyo Electric Power Company. The experts, an official from the IAEA and the local office in Fukushima, will conduct a comprehensive evaluation of the first release via video conference this week. South Korea once again is planning to dispatch experts to the site sometime next week. The Government Policy Coordination Office said during its briefing that the date of the second discharge has not been determined this far. However, Japan's public broadcaster NHK reported later that day that it will begin after about 3 weeks of equipment checks. Ishi-Hu, Arirang News.
Over in Morocco, the death toll from Friday's deadly earthquake has risen to over 2,800. The South Korean government says it is ready to send assistance once aid plans are agreed with Morocco. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
In what was the strongest earthquake to hit the center of Morocco in over a century, the death toll from Friday's deadly quake has now risen past 2,800. According to the local authorities, as of Monday, 2,862 were killed and 2,562 others injured in the 6.8 magnitude earthquake. The worst affected area is the province of Al-Haouz, where nearly 1,500 people have died due to the fact that it's located at the foot of the Atlas Mountains and includes remote villages and settlements that have been challenging for rescuers to reach. And with the golden time ticking down and rescuers struggling to get to the victims, there are fears the death toll could rise even further over the next several days. And with so many hard-to-reach areas, authorities have not yet issued any estimates for the number of people missing. UNICEF also estimates that about 100,000 children in the country may be affected by the earthquake, while the UN Children's Agency says it doesn't know exactly how many children were killed or injured in the disaster. 2022 estimates show that children make up around one-third of the population of the North African nation. Meanwhile, Seoul's foreign ministry announced Monday that it's ready to support Morocco if the country makes such a request. However, the official who spoke on the condition of anonymity said the government has not reached a mutually agreed-upon aid plan with Morocco just yet, but will decide on support measures after consulting with Moroccan authorities. The South Korean government also vowed to work in close consultation with both Morocco and the international community to help the country overcome any difficulties. 이승재, Arirang News.
South Korea and Uzbekistan agreed on a trade deal that would expand their supply chain cooperation. According to Seoul's Trade Ministry on Tuesday, the two countries signed a trade and investment promotion framework during a meeting in Seoul. Uzbekistan is South Korea's first TIPF partner in Central Asia and its seventh since the first partnership of its kind was signed with the United Arab Emirates in January this year. The ministry added that the latest trade partnership will widely contribute to stabilizing Korea's supply chain. Uzbekistan is rich in rare metals. In 2022, it ranked 12th in the world for reserves of molybdenum, an element used by semiconductor industry. Varieties of kiwi fruit that have been cultivated in South Korea's southwest Jeollanam-do province are now being distributed to Europe through France. Now these kiwis are to bring in $11 million in royalty fees over the next 10 years. Our Yoon has a story about these golden kiwis.
This is a kiwi farm in Labatu, a rural village in France. The fresh fruits on these kiwi vines are the Haegum and Haewon varieties developed by the Agricultural Research and Extension Services of South Korea's Jeollanam-do province. The test cultivation of these two kiwi varieties on European soil has been completed, and distribution to 11 farms in France started last year. Farmers are looking forward to their first harvest this year.
I'm looking forward to two things. Because it's a new variety, it will attract customers, and the fruit itself is big and has a good flavor. Also, it is harvested earlier than existing varieties, so we're expecting good income.
The French company that these two Korean kiwi varieties have been exclusively contracted to plans to sell them across Western Europe. It will cultivate some 400 hectares of the Haegum variety and 100 hectares of the Haewon variety. These varieties are expected to be highly competitive, with one of their greatest advantages being a long storage period.
We plant more Haegum, gold kiwi fruit, because we need more gold kiwi fruit for European market. Okay, and there is a very good feedback of the buyers for Haegum because of the very good color, nice taste.
Rather than exporting kiwi fruit, South Korea is distributing the seedlings and reaping royalty fees from their cultivation. This is the first time that South Korea has exported fruits to Europe for royalty fees. The contract period for the kiwis is 30 years, and royalty fees of over $11 million are expected over the first 10 years.
The fruit has a great appearance, and the high uniformity of the fruits makes its rate of commercialization very high. It has good sweetness and a rich gold color. I don't think it falls behind in competition with other foreign varieties.
The Agricultural Research and Extension Services is planning to export the Hegum and Hewan varieties to other countries like South Africa, Chile, and Australia. Yoon, Arirang News.
It's been over 3 decades since the barcode was first introduced to Korea. Now there's the next generation barcode, the QR code, that's transforming the retail industry to become more digital and sustainable. Our business correspondent Shin Ah-young sat down with the CEO of an NGO responsible for global standards for barcodes.
The well-known beep sound when a product is scanned is heard about 6 billion times per day across the world. Marking the 35th anniversary of the barcode in South Korea, the country has seen a 1,000-fold increase in the number of Korean companies adopting barcodes compared to 1988. However, there is potential for the South Korean retail industry to go even further, especially regarding circular economy and sustainable growth. That's according to the CEO of GS1, a global non-governmental organization based in Belgium, credited with designing and implementing global standards for barcodes.
So if you look at the retail industry in Korea, it's one of the most advanced in the world already. The European Union wants to implement a real circular economy, and they are asking all export countries to provide data about the products that will be exported to Europe. What we do is to define a global language of business, meaning standardized data that can be used by all partners when they exchange information.
He also stressed the importance of digital transformation among retail and logistics industries by using the next generation barcode powered by GS1.
So the original barcode 35 years ago initiated a strong revolution in commerce and in supply chain. Today, with the next generation barcode, it's the beginning of a new revolution. A new revolution which will lead to better consumer information, and this will create trust with consumers.
He added that another aspect of digitalization is to improve the operation of companies.
Retailers have the possibility with this technology to improve inventory management and also to propose what we call dynamic pricing to consumers. That is, when the product arrives closer to the expiry date, you can make a discount.
A label-free water bottle with an imprinted GS1 QR code on the lid is one of the examples that demonstrates digital transformation and sustainable growth in South Korea. Citing disruptions caused by the pandemic and shortage of certain raw materials, the GS1 CEO said managing the supply chain has become more crucial.
You need to have a good transparency and visibility in the supply chains that you manage. A proof is that during the pandemic, in the countries where a common standard was adopted, they were able to consolidate how much inventory they have for this medicine or this medicine, and then be able to better allocate where they needed the medicines.
He added that functioning as a global language, QR codes will help exporters, including Korean firms, to comply more easily with requirements from around the world. Shin Ah-young, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In northeastern Libya, thousands of people are feared dead following devastating floods over the weekend. A military spokesperson for the eastern region put the death toll at over 2,000 on Monday and said around 5,000 others are missing. The flooding was caused by torrential downpours from Storm Daniel. The heavy rains also caused a dam to burst near the city of Derna, sweeping away entire neighborhoods. The city was worst hit, with the non-profit group, the Libyan Red Crescent, putting the death toll there at more than 300. Authorities expect the death toll to rise as search and rescue operations continue. Parts of the region have been declared a disaster zone. Libya is politically divided between the East and West. The internationally recognized government does not control the impacted area. In the United States, memorial events were held on Monday to mark the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th Twin Towers attack that killed around 3,000 people. In New York, Vice President Kamala Harris and other officials paid tribute at the site of the tragedy, while U.S. President Joe Biden addressed service members and first responders from a military base in Anchorage, Alaska. Other events were held at the Pentagon and a 9/11 memorial in Pennsylvania, as well as firehouses and city halls. On September 11, 2001, 4 planes were hijacked by members of the Al-Qaeda terrorist group. 2 of the planes crashed into New York's Twin Towers, and another plane hit the Pentagon. The 4th aircraft never reached its intended target, the U.S. Capitol, after passengers fought back against the hijackers. It crashed in an open field in Pennsylvania. Staying in the United States, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Monday approved updated COVID-19 vaccines ahead of the fall and winter seasons in a bid to prevent a surge of infections. The approval applies to the latest jabs from Moderna as well as Pfizer. The new vaccines target the latest coronavirus variants. People who have never been inoculated against the virus can receive the updated vaccine. The vaccine is expected to receive final approval from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention before being rolled out later this week. And finally, dogs made a splash at Del Mar Dog Beach in California on Sunday by surfing waves at a local surfathon charity event. More than 50 canines surfed up a storm for the 18th Helen Woodward Surf Dog Contest, with some riding the waves solo, while others had a guiding hand from their owners. The annual contest raises funds for orphaned pets. A dog named Sugar took home this year's top prize for Best in Surf. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Calendars may say it is autumn, but it feels nothing like autumn in the afternoon. Summer-like heat continues today across much of Korea, with daytime highs going up 3 to 4 degrees higher than average. South of inland regions will see 5 to 20 millimeters of passing rain, along with thunder and lightning during the day today. But upper parts of the country, including the capital area, are under mostly sunny skies. Afternoon highs in most parts are 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon with strong UV rays. East of Gangwon-do will see rain tomorrow and Thursday, while nationwide showers are in the forecast on Friday, which could linger into Saturday. And that rain might continue into Sunday for southern parts of the country. So frequent rain is in the forecast for southern regions for the next few days. Plan accordingly for the upcoming weekend. But this week's wet weather should bring down the temperatures close to norms next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
For his trip to Russia, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un once again took his specially designed green train. Used by 3 generations, the train is reportedly decked out with screens and luxurious cars and offers all kinds of food. It is also heavily armored, has bulletproof glass, and perhaps because of their weight, it moves exceptionally slowly, taking 20 hours to reach Vladivostok. But there's still a good reason to take the train over a plane: security. It can avoid flight radar, and North Korea's Soviet-made air fleet is getting old. In fact, Kim's predecessors, his father and grandfather, all favored rail travel due to fears of being shot out of the sky. It's now the 21st century, but trains still seem like the best option for some world leaders. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.